Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Tonight's video is going to be my top 10 worst NRL games of the 2020 NRL season. We saw some really bad games of rugby league this year in the NRL, so tonight I'm going to be giving you my top 10. But before I get into that, I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone out there who has subscribed to the channel. You know, it's Christmas Eve tonight, so I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone out there, and hope you all have a fantastic Christmas day tomorrow. And hope you get presents and hope you get everything that is coming your way. Everyone, all you guys deserve it. So, without further ado, before I get into it as well, if you want to support the channel in any way that you like, if you want to donate to the channel, there is a PayPal link in the description below. If you want to PayPal me, if you want to donate to the channel and support the channel, then feel free to do so. But personally, I don't really care because I just love putting out good content for you guys. But anyway, let's get into it. My top 10 worst NRL games of 2020. Now, I want to apologise to the Broncos fans out there. A lot of Broncos games are in this list because I think only 2 of them are in this list. But I could have easily put more Broncos games in here because I had some really, really shockers this year. But without further ado, let's get into it. And we'll start off from 10 and we'll go into number 1. So, let's get into it. Nick from Australia's top 10 NRL worst games of 2020. Number 10 is the Storm versus the Warriors in round 7 at Nostrata Jubilee Oval. Well, the Storm beat the Warriors 50 points to 6. Now, round 7 was hyped up as Anzac round because obviously they couldn't play Anzac Day because of the whole COVID situation. But in round 7, the Storm played the Warriors at Nostrata Jubilee Oval, and my God, it was such a bad game of football. Melbourne winning 50 points to 6. I think it was a Friday 6 o'clock game from memory. It was a really, really boring game. It was a one-sided affair. The Warriors didn't show up for this game, and Melbourne, it was like watching bloody football training. It was a really boring game. Melbourne were clinical, and it was a complete snooze fest. So, I mean, when there's a game of 50 points to 6, that is always going to make the top 10 in some way. So, Storm versus Warriors in round 7 is number 10 on the list. Number 9 on the list is the Newcastle Knights beating the West Tigers 44 points to 4 in round 13 at McDonald Jones Stadium down there in Newcastle. Now, this was a Saturday 5:30 game, I think, from memory, and my God, 44-4 at Newcastle. I mean, every time there's a Super Saturday on, you know, you're sitting there with your chocolate, with your chips, maybe with your Coke, maybe with your vodka, if you're old enough to drink alcohol, maybe with your apple juice. And you just want to sit there and watch 3 games of footy. And sadly, sometimes you get some disgusting games and some really bad blowouts. And this game in round 13 between Newcastle and the West Tigers was a complete snooze fest. It was a very poor game of footy, and it was a game that I want to forget because it was so boring, and it was one of the worst games I've seen this year. And it's number 9. It is number 9 on the list for that reason. Number 8 on the list is a game that was actually close. It was the Gold Coast up against Canterbury. The Gold Coast beating Canterbury in round 17 at ANZ Stadium. Now, I know the Gold Coast beat Canterbury in this game 18 points to 14. It was a Saturday afternoon game at ANZ Stadium. But my God, the quality of this game was really, really poor. The Gold Coast, they were on a bit of a winning streak at the time. The Bulldogs, they were just trying to avoid the wooden spoon. It was a Saturday afternoon game. It was so bad. This game was so bad, I felt like drinking 5-year-old milk. It was one of the worst games of football I've watched. You know, the Gold Coast at this stage of the season weren't really playing for anything but pride, and Canterbury were trying to avoid the wooden spoon. The quality of this game was garbage. Both sides were really, really poor. And you know what? It's a game that I really did not like watching. You know, like I said before about the Newcastle West Tigers game. The first game on a Saturday afternoon here between the Gold Coast and Canterbury. 3 weeks until the season ends at this point. Looking forward to finals. Both these teams were not going to be able to feature in finals, and it was just a really, really bad game to have on, and it was just a really boring game of football in general. And you know, watching this game made me want to drink 5-year-old milk. It was that bad. But anyway, it's number 8 on the list. Number 7 on the list is a game that was so boring, I could honestly just go to sleep watching this game. It was round 20. The Panthers beating the Bulldogs at Bankwest Stadium, 42 points to nil. Now, my God, 42-0 on a Saturday afternoon. My God, you just want to go to sleep. Now, honestly, like I said before about the Gold Coast and Canterbury game, when it's Super Saturday, 3 games of footy, you're excited, you know, you want to enjoy yourself, and you get 42-0. It's just very boring, very slow. You know, you start to get, you know, I understand that you can't have every game be close and you get a lot of blowouts, but my God, 42-0 was just, it was an ugly game. It was the demolition at its best, and it was a very miserable game of football, and it's number 7 on the list. Number 6 on the list is a game that I remember doing the Friday Night Football review of, and I remember being really pissed off with this game. Number 6 is the Panthers beating the Eels 20 points to 2 in round 18 at Panthers Stadium. Now, I remember this game very well. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I wish I could forget about it. Now, look, it was hyped up as the game of the round, and look, don't get me wrong, looking at these sides at the time, fair enough. Penrith had the form, they had the winning streak going. Parramatta were trying to sneak into the top 4, they was trying to hang into the top 4, and this game was really bad. I remember this game well. It was a Friday night game, it was a Channel 9 game, and I remember doing the Friday Night Football review straight after the game, and I remember coming on here and just absolutely going off because the game was ruined by the referees. The referees were all Penrith. Look, everyone knows I've got a thing against Penrith and the Clearys, but listen, if you go back and watch this game, you will be frustrated. This game was disgusting, it was disgraceful, and not the teams were good, like the teams are fine, but the quality of it wasn't great. It was one-sided, referee was one-sided, it was ridiculous, the game pissed me off, and I want to forget about it because it just made me angry, and it's making me angry right now just talking about it, but it's number 6 on the list because it was a disgusting game of football, one-sided, and it was terrible to watch. So that is number 6 on the list. Now let's get into the top 5. Now, I'm not excited for this top 5 because this top 5 is really, really bad. These 5 games were really, really disgusting. It makes me sick, this top 5, because these 5 games were really, really bad this year. It makes me want to eat dirt, honestly. Number 5 on the list is the Titans beating the Cowboys 30 points to 10 at Seabar Super Stadium in round 13. Now, this was the game where Michael Morgan made his return. I hyped it up during the week, and I got the complete opposite, and the Gold Coast won 30 points to 10. It was a Sunday afternoon game at 2 o'clock. I would have attended if it wasn't for the border being shut at the time, but watching this game was just completely miserable. Even as a Cowboys supporter, this game just completely pissed me off. Watching the Gold Coast beat the Cowboys at the Gold Coast, watching it at home on Fox, it was really, really bad. You know, two sides that, like I said, they had absolutely nothing to play for. The Cowboys had no chance of making the finals. The Gold Coast had no chance of making anything. But the quality of the game was really bad. The Gold Coast were really good. The Cowboys were really bad. It was a really one-sided game. The Gold Coast dominated the game from the get-go. It was a poor game of footy. It's number 5 on the list, and I don't even want to talk about it ever again because it was that bad. Number 4 on the list was the Rabbitohs beating the Eels 38 points to 0 in round 16 at Bankwest Stadium. Now, this was a Thursday night game. This game was hyped up as one of the games of the round. Was even talked of as being a potential game of the season. And my God, it was the complete opposite. It was like watching a 22-year-old have a fight with a 15-year-old. It was just unfair. The Rabbitohs were dominant here. It was like watching it was like watching the Big Show up against Rey Mysterio in wrestling or something. It was unbelievable. It was unfair. Now, Parramatta in this game were really, really poor. Souths were very dominant. Latrell Mitchell had a huge game. And I think that's the game where he got injured, actually, from memory. But Souths in this game were very clinical. They were very dominant. It was a one-sided game. They absolutely humiliated Parramatta at Bankwest Stadium on a Thursday night in front of a fairly good crowd. I know my good mate Entertain Us was at the game, and I know he was he was pretty pissed off. But it was a very poor game of football to watch, and one that I do want to forget. And yeah, 38-0, very boring. Number 3 on the list was in round four. Was the Bulldogs beating the Dragons 22 points to 2. Now this was a Queen's birthday game, I think, from memory. The Bulldogs and the Dragons at Bank West. And let's face it, this game was so boring I almost fell asleep. You know, a public holiday, a day off work, sit back on a Monday afternoon and watch the footy. Canterbury St George. And it was one of the worst games of football I've watched all year. Both sides obviously had a poor season. The quality of the game was really, really bad. Both sides were awful. I think this was the game where Paul McGregor was on NRL 360, and we all thought that McGregor was getting the axe. And Canterbury, I think it was the first one of the season as well from memory. It was just a really bad game in general, and you know, it was a snooze fest, and I just wanted to go to sleep watching this game. So that's number 3 on the list. Now let's get into the top 2. Number 2 on the list was in round 10, where the Tigers beat the Broncos 48 points to 0 at Leichhardt Oval. Now this game was so bad, I felt like putting my head down a public toilet. It was that boring. It was so bad. I remember sitting back there on the Friday night, sitting on my couch. All I wanted to do was just drink alcohol and just put my head down a toilet and forget about this Friday night game. It was that bad. It was that boring. The Broncos were terrible. Defensively, the Broncos were terrible. The Tigers just come out. It was the Harry Grant show. The Tigers had a field day, and I remember the game well because it was a Friday night game, and some of the defensive decisions I saw in that game from Brisbane were terrible, and the Tigers had a field day. 48-0. It's a game that you want to forget, and it's a game that you want to forget. And number 1 on the list, I think you already know, the worst NRL game of 2020 was in round 4 as well. Oh no, did I have one in round 4 already? Yeah, I had the Bulldogs Dragons in round 4. It was in round 4. The worst NRL game of 2020 was the Roosters defeating the Broncos 59 points to 0 at the Suncorp Stadium. Now look, I believe it was a Thursday night game from memory. This was disgraceful. It was the second week that the NRL returned from the outbreak, and the Roosters won 59-0. Now, when it's 59-0 on a Thursday night, the second Thursday night game back from the lockdown, and 59-0. My God, it was that bad. I could honestly go out the back and eat dirt, put it on a bloody bread roll with some mayonnaise, maybe some 4-year-old peanut butter, put it on there and just eat it out of a 6-week-year-old bread roll. It was that bad. It was one of the worst games of football that I've seen. It makes me sick. It's the worst game of the year. Have a look at all the NRL games. Go through the whole NRL draw from 2020. The Roosters beating the Broncos 59-0 was without a doubt the worst game of 2020. And it's a game that I want to forget because it was that bad. I know Roosters ended up beating them, I think it was like 58-12 later in the year. But nothing compares to 59-0. 59-0 is an absolute snooze fest. I just want to go to sleep watching that game. But anyway, guys, that was my top 10 worst NRL games of 2020. Let me know your top 10 or top 5 worst games of 2020 in the comment section below. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hope you guys have a fantastic Christmas Day tomorrow. Have a great Christmas Eve. If you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so. There'll be a link in the description below. But anyway, guys, I'm getting out of here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.